Alright guys, Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for the 100, Season 6, Episode 10. Alright guys, so this episode was an action-packed episode. I really felt like there was really no downtime in this one. Every scene was, something big was happening. This twist was here. So a lot of twists and turns in this one. Action-packed, very fast-paced, and I felt like this was really deserving for us viewers almost. After last episode, I thought was pretty lackluster, especially coming off the 2-week break in between episodes. I thought it was just a little bit... I expected more, let's just say that, right? But this episode really delivered with that. Like I said, a lot of twists and turns, but a lot of stuff actually happens here, and a lot of stuff is accomplished. They left us with quite a few cliffhangers here in the last few episodes. And this episode, I feel like, is the first one that we've seen pretty much everybody together, and they've actually tried to solve a couple of these issues. You know what I mean? And hopefully we got a kind of conclusion finally to the main plot that's been going on since episode 4 with Clark and Josephine. I say hopefully because you never know, right? But anyway, so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. What do you think of it? And what do you think about all the stuff that happened in this one, especially some of the stuff towards the end of the episode? Because I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on how that might influence the ending of this season, and some of your predictions there as well. But if you enjoyed the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate that as well. So we're going to do a bit of a recap for this one, and I do want to talk about quite a lot of stuff, so it might be a little bit longer. Then we'll get to my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts / predictions as to, like I said, what will happen in the rest of the season. We only got 3 episodes left to go. It seems crazy. The season has gone by really fast for me. But anyways, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'll maybe talk about a few of those at the end. But to start off, let's start off with this one. So Raven and Abby, right? So we come back from that intro. I believe it's Clark and Josephine at the beginning there. So we start off with Raven and Abby are taken back to the Sanctum compound by Simone after she tells Russell what happened to Kane's new body. So, and we kind of skip a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a day in between here. Because of course Raven and Abby and Simone are up on the mothership, and of course, Simone learns about Kane floating himself and sacrificing himself, as we saw last episode, and they had to fly back. So I'm assuming that about a day has passed since then, and now Simone, of course, knows everything. So she tells Russell what happened to Kane's new body. Essentially, he floated himself. Russell orders then for them to be in prison with the others, but before they're taken away, we see Simone tell Abby that her daughter is already dead. She tells her that Clark is dead. And then we see Abby scream as she's taken away. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So this was an impactful little moment, I would say, right? But I just felt like this could have been so much better. Like, Abby has been so disappointing this season. And it's not Paige Turco. No, it's not the actress at all. She does a really great job. But the writing for Abby this season has just been really disappointing, and this makes it even worse. I thought the one redemption that we could have had for Abby this season is how she handles finding out that Clark is dead, and that, basically her body has been used as now a host. And I thought for sure Raven and her would talk on the ship, they'd figure it out, and something would happen, they'd devise a plan. But this is the way that Abby finds out, and this is the way she reacts? I don't know. I thought this was just really disappointing. I can obviously see why Simone would tell her in this scene, though, because now she's kind of pissed, right? Like, now their whole plan of the Nightblood Serum is gone. Kane is gone. They just wasted a chip now. And so she basically is getting back at Abby here, telling her that her daughter's dead. You know what I mean? So I definitely get it from her point of view. I'm just saying, from a writing perspective, it's just frustrating as a viewer, right? To like see Abby having to go through this whole thing and not have, even one satisfying moment when she finds out about her daughter. And even some of the stuff, her interactions with her seemed a little bit phony at times to me, of how she couldn't tell, right, whether that was Clark or not. Anyways, so we see Simone and Russell then discuss what happened and what they should do next. So we know that 2 of the people are still at large in the compound, which we learn are Echo and Gaia, which makes sense because Gaia was banished, so she would have been probably outside of the compound, or at least kind of hiding somewhere around there. And then, of course, Echo got away at the end of was it episode 8, I believe, or episode 8, she got away at the very end. So Echo and Guy are the two that are still loose, that are not in the cell with the others. Russell then tells her that Clark is still alive, and that Josephine is basically in danger across the border inside her body, and so Simone kind of, does a double take, because she now just told Abby that Clark's dead. And now, Russell tells her that, well, the procedure didn't go all the way through, right? Clark is still alive somehow. So at this point, Simone suggests setting an example by killing all of the prisoners, right? For killing Miranda, but then also for this whole thing with Clark still being alive, and that Josephine may not get, all the way into her body and stuff like that. So Simone wants to retaliate, but we see Russell right away says they are bargaining chips, right? These prisoners are bargaining chips. They can't just kill them all. And also, if they killed them all, they would end up just like Clark's group, right? They would be just like them. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, you think you're better than Clark's group? It's like, like they're saying like, oh, we don't want to be like them. Like, what? Like, I don't know. I mean, Clark's group, they've obviously murdered quite a few people. Clark has murdered quite a few people. But I would not compare our group to Sanctum, the Primes. I don't know. That's just me. But obviously, they see it differently themselves. They don't see themselves as the, evil or the devil, if you will, the way our group sees them. So anyways, so they don't want to be like Clark's group, he says. Then Simone is, telling him that she's also worried that the Sanctum people may start to turn on them if Clark's group reveals the truth about them. Thus, she tells Russell that she will only kill one of them in order to retaliate, not all of them, because she trusts him, right? She trusts what he's saying, but she's also kind of worried that things might go bad if she doesn't retaliate and kill one of them and kind of show the people, right, what they stand for, and that they're not just going to be stepped on, you know what I mean? And so she has to show that kind of strength and retaliate, and she's going to be killing one person instead of all of them, right? So, and that is important because, and it might just be a throwaway scene at the very beginning, but it is important because later on we see Russell completely change that opinion that he argues against Simone in this scene. So, meanwhile, then we see Riker has agreed to hide Echo and Gaia in his workshop as Echo threatens to expose him for letting Gabriel go. I forget exactly how all that information came to be in Echo's hands, but either way, so we see Riker is already orchestrating a peaceful, he says, overthrowing of the Prime family, or I should say kind of Russell's family, right? Because, and we also see in this episode too, that Priya and Riker are still not, they're still at odds with Russell and Simone for what they did in breaking the chain. And that's a serious thing. And so Riker is still kind of having that resentment to Russell and Simone. And so he's forming this kind of peaceful protest or overthrowing, if you will, with a few of the local people, but then finds out that one of the group's people will be executed in retaliation for Miranda. And so this is, and he didn't even know that, right? And so the guard comes and tells him that one person is being executed in retaliation for Miranda. So he kind of sends these guys out. Now, the one guy obviously comes back a little bit later on, and I'm wondering then what these other two will have to do in the future episodes and whether they'll have some influence on the crowd, right? Riker obviously was telling them some information, right? So are they going to make use of that and end up talking to a few more people? That's interesting too. Anyways, so Echo's plan then, right? Echo and Gaia's plan to basically stop this execution of one of their friends is Echo's plan is to let the execution happen, but before it does, before the person is killed, she will take her shot from a window and try to essentially break it up, right? She'll basically try to shoot the guy who's doing the execution, or shoot Russell, as we find out, and that'll obviously cause chaos. The execution will be halted, and then, war, I guess, right? War will probably break out. And then we see a guy say, if you miss, one of our people dies. And she says, I won't miss, right? She better not, right? And that's the thing about this plan, is it puts a lot of, it's a really risky plan, because if she misses, that's it. This person's gonna die, right? They could have came up with a better plan and tried to stop it, but that is what it is. And I like this for Echo. She had a really great part in this episode, where this is kind of back to her Asgata spy days, right? With her in the Conclave and her obviously being that archer in the building, taking down some people during that the conclave, like I said. So, anyways, I thought this was a really great part for Echo in this episode, and so that's what she sets out to do. Then we see Murphy in the cell with the others, and this was great. So I believe it's Gaia who says, well, who are they gonna choose? And Echo's like, well, obviously Murphy, right? And then we switch to Murphy, and he's like, yep, it's gonna be me in the cell. So I thought that was really, really great and kind of charming. Anyway, so he's in the cell with the others, and I was waiting for this moment too, because I'm like, they all know he's a traitor now. Right? Like, how are they going to react being in the same room with this guy? Right? We remember how Octavia was put in that same room, and she, said some stuff, stirred up some stuff, and almost got beat to death by the guys in that room. Right? And so at that point, it's like, well, what is Murphy going to get? Right? What treatment is Murphy going to get then? But anyways, so we see Abby finds out about what he did to help Josephine from Maddie. So Maddie obviously turning against Murphy, calling him a traitor. And so luckily she's chained up, by the way, because she probably would have killed him, or at least some of the other ones even, by the time they were done. Anyways, so Abby ends up slapping Murphy in the face for what he did for Clark and Josephine, and how that whole thing came to be. She says they will choose him when they come looking for the person to execute. And I'm like, I can't say I'm surprised. Like, I kind of agree with you guys, right? And this also leads me to believe, leads me to feel that a little bit of frustration for Murphy's character, right? This is kind of getting old of him just going down the same path, becoming this traitor. Everybody hates him. He redeems himself, and then rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? And I thought this season they were going down a different path, but it looks like they're going down pretty much the exact same one as we've seen before. Very reminiscent of the City of Light plot line, right, with him. But I will say I like him and Amori and that relationship, the way that's been playing out this season. But I will say, I mean, again, I don't blame Abby for this scene, but again, like, this is the way she's retaliating to finding out Clark is dead and she's been used as a host for the Primes. I don't know. I just thought it could have been done a little bit better. But either way, I thought this was still a good confrontation here by Abby in slapping Murphy, saying, you're the one to go, right, when they come looking for a person to execute. I thought that was good. So then we see Gaia let herself get captured to essentially get into the cell, right? She gets into the cell to alert the others of their plan to kill Russell during the execution. So this is what Echo's plan is. Echo's really going for it, right? Like, she's really going for it. She's about to kill the leader here during the execution in order to basically, like I said, cause chaos, and probably war will ensue, right? The people will probably back up, or will they be able to help those people and bring them over to their side once that, the leader of the Primes is taken down, right? That could be a possibility too. So I like this line as well, where Guy comes in. She says, rest easy, Murphy. The only person dying tonight is Russell. So I love that scene as well. All right, then we see Russell, Simone, Riker, and Priya sitting down for lunch when the guards bring in one of the men who was talking with Riker earlier about, basically overthrowing or protesting the Primes. Now, this was an interesting scene. This was about 18 minutes into the episode, I think. And this one really shocked me. I mean, I did not see this one coming at all. Okay, so this guy says he has information about where Echo is to basically get in the room, right? The guards bring him in, and basically bring him in to give Russell and Simone information about where Echo is, right? But obviously he's lying. So once he sits down, he quickly reveals his hatred for the Primes, right? And says they aren't even gods. As we're led to believe, right? You guys aren't even gods, and I really like that scene as well, establishing that thought again, that these people really have been brainwashed into thinking that they are gods, right? That they are sacrificing to the gods, while meanwhile, it's just a mind drive, right? Like, it's just this blue chip that goes in the back of their neck just to bring them back and, back and over and over again, right? So I really like that, where they kind of showed that again, that, like, this guy's realizing, like, they're not gods. These guys are just regular people that are saved to mind drives. You know what I mean? And so anyway, so he is voicing this hatred, and it's like, what? Like, why would he be doing this? And then he's trying to help them find Echo. So we see that Riker on his facial reactions were great. He's worried that he might actually reveal Echo's location here, right? Because he's trying to help out Echo. He's trying to, hide her. And this guy's about to expose her, right? But really, all of this whole thing of him coming in was all just a lie in order to kill Simone. As we see him break this wine bottle and then stab her in the throat with a piece of the glass before the guards can even get to him, or Russell for that matter. Just an insane scene, and then he, screams death to Primes as he's being carried out by those guards. Surprised they didn't just execute him right away, but then obviously makes for a more dramatic scene later on. Anyways, Russell then holds, Simone in his arms and promises to bring her back in her kind of dying breaths there. And meanwhile, the man then is taken away by the guards, as I said, and I'm like, this can't be good. Like, this cannot be good. This is probably the worst case scenario that could have happened, because now they were gonna just execute one. Simone was gonna execute one. Russell was fine with it. He talked her out of it. And now, in this scene, it's like Russell has that look in his eye. Like, he wants revenge for what just happened, because now he's not going to be able to bring back Simone for a while. Right? Maybe even at the end of his body's lifetime here. So a truly shocking scene that I really didn't expect, but Simone is killed by this guy, and this obviously causes that change of heart for Russell. All right. So obviously on their way to Gabriel, Clark and Josephine are battling each other as the brain is quickly melting, which causes Clark to actually have a seizure in that hidden cave that they find, basically running from Jade and the motorcycle guards. That they were able to escape at, last episode pretty much, where she knocks Jade out. Anyways, so this is an interesting little sequence here, and this really plays out through the whole episode, in that Clark and Josephine basically put back into the mind space setting. And, we saw Clark being able to see Josephine in real life for a while, right, with her kind of the two minds going, but her still in control. But at this point, she seizes, right? And also seizes control, lack of a better term, I guess. But she has the seizure and then lacks that control. And so now they're back in that mind space setting that we got familiar with in episode 7. So Clark then figures the only way to stop the two minds, or at least from Josephine's mind, overlapping into her own mind space, causing the seizure, is to basically float/destroy Josephine's memories that are on her side, which of course are in the form of books. But Josephine will lose all of those memories forever, right? So this whole process is hurting Josephine, yet somehow, in the overall scheme of things, will save her. So it's a really interesting dynamic here to see, Josephine, trying to reason herself, getting rid of all of these great memories that she has, and also bad ones too that she probably does want to forget. And Clark finding the solution that may save them both, but it is definitely a sacrifice for Josephine in losing these memories. Now, again, in this whole sequence, the way it plays out, even Clark alludes to it here at the beginning as she holds the gun to Josephine's head. It's like, yeah, Clark could just shoot and kill her in that mind space. Now, since her door is gone, even Josephine says, I'm not sure what would happen to me if you killed me, because my space is gone, right? And so she has this chance right here in this, sequence right here where she holds the gun to her head. But the thing is, though, the thing that Clark kind of, reasons with herself is she won't have her chip to bargain in order to get her people back. So she basically has to keep Josephine alive to keep that chip in order to bargain, right, to get the people back. And it's like, I get this. I get you want to get your people back, and this is for sure a good way to do it. But I'm sure you could find another way to get them back, couldn't you? Like, wouldn't it just be easier to pull the trigger, just kill the bitch already, right? Like, kill Josephine, get her out of the way, right? Pull that trigger in that scene, kill her, and then afterwards try to figure out something to get your people back, right? And I guess she doesn't know this yet, but Bellamy, Echo, like, there are people that are still free that are able to help you out and get back there, including Gabriel Octavia as well. So, I don't know. I like the way that, like, I get it, right? I get the reasoning, but I also kind of see it's like, no, just kill her, right? Like, you'll find a different way to get her. So I did like the way that Clark kind of reasons with herself here, though, and the whole way the sequence plays out. But the way it ends, too, you realize, well, she probably should have just killed her right then. And that's the way it plays out, but it is what it is. So eventually, Clark is forced to vent all of Josephine's memories in the form of those books out of her mind space all at once. And when she opens her door, basically, her room in the Ark, she opens that door and basically sees Josephine's door formed again in the mind space. So it's like, okay, like this is good news. So after this whole thing plays out and they figure out that they got to drain all the memories, so she vents all of these books. And all of a sudden, it looks like Josephine has the door. She's gone in her own mind space, and now Clark is fine, right? Like she's gotten rid of Josephine now, and she has full control. And so then we see her wake up in the cave, again, with this full control, or so we think at this point. She wakes up in the cave to be covered by these vines. And at this point, luckily, Gabriel and Octavia are really close to her, as they've already been looking for her since that radio call came in. So they find her in the cave, and just as they get her free from the vines, we find out it's not Clark, but it's Josephine who has control now. And that honestly was a bit surprising. I expected Clark, and then we see Josephine kind of emerge and talk to Gabriel. I'm like, not again, like not again. I thought we just got rid of this girl. So anyway, so she comes back, and now she is taking control. Octavia, just as shocked as we are, she says, what happened to Clark? And Josephine doesn't even respond. So, she's just obsessed with Gabriel now. So as they get her to the cave, Jade and her guards ride up upon them. And they didn't see them right at first. Like, they probably would have just kept riding by. But instead, of course, Josephine exposes them, right? So she exposes them. She yells out to Jade that she's over here. And so Jade and her guards, they come over. And they grab Josephine and Gabriel. And then are about to kill Octavia, right? So Josephine just says, like, and kill this girl, right? Like, just kill Octavia here, but take Gabriel prisoner, take me back to my dad, right? So she's giving them orders, and they got Octavia down on her knees, about to kill her, until a really, really great segment here. So, until one of the guards ends up shooting down all the other guards all at once, a really badass scene there, and then holds Jade at gunpoint, and reveals himself as Bellamy. I thought that was a really great reveal. One thing I will say that it's a little bit problematic is how did they not notice that one of the guards was Bellamy, right? Like, when they notice that one of them's dead, when they talk to each other, so it just seemed a little bit problematic, but getting past that, I thought it was awesome, the whole reveal and the way that Bellamy disguised himself and was able to come back. I wasn't sure that we were going to see him in this episode until this point because we didn't hear anything about him. For all we know, he was still in that cave, right, with the children of Gabriel. And so I thought that was a really great, way to bring him back in this one, right? So he tells he then tells Jade to go home and tell Russell if anything happens to his people that his daughter will die. And I'm thinking it's like perfect threat, right? Like this is some really great leverage that they have now because they got Josephine, right? And they're going to get her mind chip now. So they can destroy that mind chip really, really easily. And if Russell hurts any of the people, that's exactly what they're going to do. Because now they're going to be able to get Clark back as well, which also adds to that leverage. So some really great stuff here and a really great thought of plan. So then we see Octavia try to greet Bellamy. This is just so kind of disappointing. You feel so bad for Octavia. So he still ignores her. He doesn't even hug her back when she goes to hug him. Just an emotional scene because, again, we know she's gone through quite this transformation in just the last episode or two from coming out of this anomaly. And, we know that she wants to change. She wants this forgiveness. She wants redemption. And Bellamy just not giving her anything. Right? Just completely ignoring her still. And so I don't blame Bellamy at all for all the things she's done, but you do feel bad for Octavia, and I feel like that's definitely going to get addressed in future episodes. Alright, so meanwhile, back at Sanctum, Russell has a change of heart, and despite Bellamy's threat, has decided to burn every one of the group at the stake, to burn them alive. Not just one person anymore, all of them. So, I thought this was a massive change, but of course, does it have something to do with Simone dying, right? Probably. And I will say, despite Bellamy's threat, I'm not sure that he actually knows of Bellamy's threat yet. I'm not sure that Jade has returned yet, and I'm not sure if that will change his mind in deciding to burn all of them alive. But anyways, so I have to see on that one. I'm not exactly sure. But we do know that he's not going to burn Maddie, who we see also in this episode has her own issues right now with the Dark Commanders, Shade Haida, and that whole thing going on. And I will say that's been a really intriguing storyline this episode that I felt like really deserved more time. So I'm hoping in the next few episodes that does take a little bit of more of a focus. But anyways, so was this change of heart caused by Simone's death? Probably, right? I think it is. I think this whole kind of turn for Russell, that switch that he flips, is because of Simone dying. But we have to remember, these people had nothing to do with that, right? Like, this was one of his own people who killed Simone. It wasn't even any of this group from Earth. And so to me, I thought, it's like, wow, like, he's just mad at the world. You know what I mean? Like, he's just mad at everybody because they weren't even responsible for Simone's death. Anyway, so we see the townspeople gather around to watch the burning event. I thought it was, like, just crazy. And then the way they react to the burning of the one guy, it's like, well, how would they have reacted to, like, 20 people getting burned here? I don't know. It didn't seem like they really wanted to be there anyways. So before Echo can get this shot off at Russell, which is her whole plan, let's remember, right? So everyone's on the stake. She can just shoot Russell and put an end to it. But before she can get that shot off, Riker knocks her out to save him. This was just really foreseeable. I knew it would happen. The Primes can't betray each other, right? They might be mad at each other. Riker might be a little bit pissed that they skipped the family line. But he's not willing to kill him, right? I think all these Primes are still... At the end of the day, they're going to stick up for each other. They're going to save each other, whether they're mad or not. And that was really foreseeable. I saw that coming the whole way, especially when Riker and Echo were both together in that window. It was really predictable. But either way, so right before the burning then, they're left to their own devices now because Echo is gone, right? And that was the riskiness of that plan, right? She's gone. She misses that shot. They're dead. You know what I mean? So right before the burning, though, we see Murphy talking Russell out of it. Says they can use the bone marrow to create that nightblood serum, which therefore would help bring Simone back. And that's pretty much Russell's biggest focus right now. So Abby says she can do it for him, but if they kill them, they will never know, right? They'll never know if it'll work or not, or, you know, they'll never know the recipe kind of thing that it would take for Abby to perform it. Now, I'm not exactly sure if they know that they can do it or not, or they're just lying to him to give themselves more time. Either way, he reluctantly lets them go. He gives them 24 hours to figure out this bone marrow kind of transplant experiment with the Nightbloods. And when Raven asks him, or sorry, I think it was Abby, asks him for a test subject, he says, oh, well, you can get Maddie, right? Like, Maddie will be your Nightblood, test subject. I thought that was a really, and you see Abby's face and Raven's like, no, like, it's okay, right? And we also see Raven say we need access to a computer. And this is right after she was talking about deleting the code of Shade Hada in that commander chip in Maddie. So I'm wondering if they're going to try to do that, delete the Shade Hada chip, wake up the army, and then storm Russell and Sanctum before the 24 hours are up. That would be my early prediction, but that's how it is. So that's the way they are. They get freed. They don't get burnt alive. Yet, the one guy does. Like, the one guy does. The one guy who killed Simone does get burnt alive. And that I wasn't too, shocked about. I thought that was, again, he did kill her, right? It's important to Russell. So I thought that was, that really didn't change my viewpoint of Russell at all. Because I thought that was, again, pretty predictable. All right, so to end off the episode, back in Gabriel's tent, he preps to get Clark back, which means killing her body, which will then back up Josephine's drive. Then he removes the drive and restarts the heart so that Clark can come back, right? So that's the whole plan. Kill her, get Josephine's drive out, bring Clark back. Now, it seems simple, right? Like, well, simple, I guess, in this world. It seems simple, but before he does it, Josephine tries one last time to manipulate and plead for him to save her and let her basically live in Clark's body now just to get rid of Clark instead. But Gabriel ends up making the right decision, says his time with her is over, and he injects her with the serum to basically kill her, right? Or at least end the activity in the brain. To stop her heart, I think it was. So anyways, I thought that was, it was just satisfying to see her, him just inject her finally. After all this begging and pleading, it's like, no, just shut up, right? Just kill her already. Get her out of Clark's body, and so he does. So everything goes right? They get the chip out, Josephine's backed up into it, we're all good. Everything goes fine until he can't restart her heart when he tries. And this is because, of course, Josephine is still in her mind. Of course. Right, so she ends up attaching to that neural mesh, that Clark basically attached to when she got erased. And so Josephine actually does the same thing and is able to stay inside her mind. Now, so one final kind of farewell to Josephine is just fitting, right? Like, of course she comes back again, right? Like, she could just never be killed, pretty much, right? So anyways, we see Bellamy is in denial at this point, tries giving her CPR, even though Gabriel and Octavia are both telling him it's over, right? They can't restart the body, and especially they can't do it because of the two minds that are still present in there. Josephine somehow grasped onto that neural mesh and is still in there and stopping Clark from coming back. So Clark hears Bellamy's words in the mind space as she has just a few minutes before her mind is gone, and she's gone forever. So we then see very quickly she finally gets this kind of last, this last hurrah kind of thing, grabs that hatchet and ends up killing Josephine in her mind space. So satisfying. Kills her once and for all, which means that she is now gone, and her heart starts back up as only one mind is now present in her brain again. And then we see Clark wake up and hug Bellamy. Really, really great scene. Emotional, to say the least. So finally she's back for good, and Josephine is now in her drive. A suspenseful scene nonetheless, though. In a couple moments there, I wasn't sure if Clark was going to come back or not, or what they were going to do, but a really great ending to this one. Clark is back, Josephine is defeated once and for all, and Gabriel's able to bring Clark back, and she ends up hugging Bellamy to end off the episode. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give this one a 4.6 out of 5. I thought it was a really action-packed and fast-paced episode, like I said off the top, which I thought was really fitting, given last week's episode. A little bit slow, a little bit kind of lackluster at times for me, and I thought this one really picked up. So a satisfying end to Josephine. It was like, you knew she was going to come back to the very end there, and that scene where Clark throws that hatchet at her and finally kills her and erases her. So satisfying, right? Like, just really satisfying. She's just become so annoying and just so, like, you just hate her. Even though she hasn't done, the things that, Blood Reyna did, for example, or the Mountain Men, you know what I mean? Like, she hasn't done, or at least we haven't seen her do those type of things, but, like, we just hate her at this point. Like, she's just so annoying that it was just such a satisfying end to see her finally go and Clark get back her body. And like I said, this has been a storyline for, like, 6 or 7 episodes now, so it's really, really great to see it finally come full circle. So I think that Russell deciding to burn them all was just a little bit forced. Again, that decision was definitely influenced by Simone's death, but again, is it just that he's mad at the world? Because they weren't involved in that. I don't know why he then decides to burn all of them. I thought it made for a more suspenseful, intense ending to the episode, but I'm not sure that this makes sense for Russell, as he was the one trying to talk Simone out of it at the beginning, and it seemed as though they were setting up that he really isn't that bad of a guy. Like, he is a reasonable guy that you can really have a conversation with and convince him. And in this, he just snaps. And again, maybe it is Simone's death, and maybe he just flips that switch in himself. But I don't know. I thought it may have been a little bit forced and a little bit different for Russell's character. And Abby finding out about Clark, I thought that was a negative and kind of disappointing as well. And Maddie and the Dark Commander, again, I'd like to see that focus on the next couple episodes, because I think that's a big story that's been kind of in the background. But I really like that to emerge, and I think Lola Flannery's doing a really great job this season as Maddie, and I really want to see that character get some more screen time. Clark is finally back, really awesome. And again, we didn't see any Jordan in this episode. Where's Shannon Kook? Like, where's Jordan? What happened to this guy? So that is something that I do want to see next episode for sure, because that's been a big mystery ever since it happened, as he was stabbed by Maddie by accident. So anyways, really want to see Jordan in the next episode, but none of him here. Favorite character for this one, I got to go with Russell Lightbourne, played by J.R. Bourne. Kind of a funny thing there. And so he's had a big role in Teen Wolf, a couple small roles in Suits and Arrow that I've seen him in. But overall, I think he's doing a really great job playing Russell. And again, this episode, and when I say favorite character, obviously he's not my favorite, but this is just kind of a spotlight of his character. But for Russell, I thought this episode was maybe his biggest one, and definitely one that changes him. Again, the way they've been kind of talking about him and kind of conveying to us that Yeah, he is a reasonable guy. He's really not that, evil, kind of super, villain that we've come to know from these other groups so far. That the leader has always been that. Maybe not Diyoza, but Mercury for sure last season. So, and then this episode, he really does have that change of heart and deciding to burn them all at the end. So, anyways, a crazy transformation for that character, and I'm looking forward to see how that character is wrapped up. I would assume that he won't survive this season, given the stuff that he's done so far. But we'll have to see what happens. And J.R. Bourne's doing a really great job. Really happy for him that he landed this one. And looking forward to what he does next if indeed he is killed off here at the end of the season. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this one. Again, love to hear your guys' thoughts on any or all of the stuff that happened in this episode. Love to discuss with you guys, including some predictions for going forward. I'll, really enjoy that. But anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching this one. And we'll see you next week for the 100 Season 6, Episode 11. Only 3 episodes left in Season 6.